Hello and welcome to what isn't another episode of Let's Play Clair Obscur Expedition 33. What is instead an apology for a missing episode. I made a terrible balls up with this. Obviously, I've been doing this and the Uncharted Waters New Horizons video, which is a series at the same time, doing them in parallel. That came out ages ago. This is just coming out now. In switching between the two, I have for episode 20, I've made a mistake I've never made before, and I hope I'll never make it again. I didn't have the right video source set in for this when I was recording. And so I managed to record it entirely without video. I've got all the audio, but none of the video. And there's no way to get it back. It was just never recorded. So massive balls up there. What I thought I would do on this, at first I was going to try and sort of gather some stills to try and go back through and explain what's going on there, but that ended up I realised it was going to pose its own problems, because most of the interesting stuff has been and gone. The visuals for that are gone unless I use somebody else's playthrough, which I really don't want to get into doing for numerous, not just copyright but also for spoilers for myself and so on. So so my solution basically is this. In the description, if you just wanted this to have some sort of background audio while you're doing your thing, or you're reading other things or whatever, a podcast, you just want something there, I will include a link to a video that's not in the playlist, which will just have the audio in, and you can listen to that if you so choose. Having been through and listened through to it, it's really hard to tell what's going on because I don't narrate what I'm doing because the visuals speak for themselves. So personally, I wouldn't recommend that, but in the interests of transparency and giving you, what I have, I'll leave that. So just look in this video description if you do want to listen to that. What I will instead do here, to give some context for the next episode, is I'll talk a little bit about what went on in this episode. So I'm going to give it a quick 10-second break in a second, just for those people who don't want to have the audio spoiled. Although, as I said, it's not really a good way to experience it. But yeah, so if you don't want to have it spoiled, look away now. Well, cut the video off now. Cool. So I'm assuming that if you are still here, you'd like the summary. Basically, we started off in camp where we'd left last time. We wondered if there was going to be some more videos on leaving camp. Sometimes they have that check if everyone's okay feature, but nothing happened there. All the camp stuff was done in the previous episode 19. So then we had a little wander around, and we did a handful of real early game trash fights just to get some Luminous learn. So there was 2 or 3 basic fights there that gave next to no experience. We went via something called Sacred River, but nothing really happened there. I think I might have already done that part, or else we're waiting for something to happen there. And then we were going around and we discovered the in one of the flying locations, the Dark Gestural Arena. Dark Gestural Arena with its danger thing on. So we saved it and went in there. And the Dark Gestural Arena is, or Gestural Kestrel, I don't remember now. That arena is much like the normal one or the hidden one, in that it's like single combat. One of your fighters against their fighters, some of them groups. And so we went in, we did the first fight, we picked Mael as our best fighter, and by rights, I think she should probably have lost the first fight, but we did quite well with the dodges. The second fight, it's a real shame that we haven't got it on video, because again, DPS wise, in terms of dodges, assuming she's only like dodging, I don't know, half of them, we'd have lost it, and we did lose it for the first two attempts. In the final attempt, we actually parried our way through it. It's one of the first fights that we've done where we relied on parry. Parry doing an absolutely extraordinary amount of damage with Mael. Like she was, a good. I forget the name of the 3-stage attack that she does, the 6 AP one. But if that normally does about 35,000 hit points, a parry on that was doing around, like, without Virtuoso 80,000 and with Virtuoso like 200,000. So there's a real lesson there that, like, and the other thing with parry, if it wasn't immediately clear to you watching this on my channel, if you want to do damage with the parry, you have to parry every single attack in that sequence. And I think the more of the attacks you parry on the way, the more damage the final parry does. But we basically rocked through that. It was one of the best pieces of timing work that I've done on the entire run. Then we got to the third fight, and by that point we were like, what Mael was, because it's her solo, was just totally outclassed. Like, we could have won it with parries. Like the attack sequence that the third one does has got some, like, quite lengthy and lopsided timing combos, and it was tough. And I basically looked at it and said, like, look, it is doable, but it would be a slog to do it. So I was just like, we'll leave it there. We ended up getting a new weapon, I think, for Lune, that was pretty good, a lightning weapon, and we actually, seriously, because it was level 25, and I think her existing level is only weapon level is only 20. We had a good 6 or 7 seconds think about whether to switch out fire. Ultimately, we didn't, but so we have got that weapon now. There was also some other things, like Lumina points or whatever, and some upgrades we got from doing that. We then went off to another flying location, which is called the Crimson Forest. And the Crimson Forest is like, it's more of a location along the lines of, like, maybe not quite as large as some of the story ones in the first 2 acts, but it is like it's a fairly, compared to everything else we've done on in Act 3, it seemed to be the most substantial area. The basic, at first there were no enemies, and then we unlocked a sword statue there. There was like a statue of a Nephron or whatever, and we activated it, and then suddenly these sword Nephrons started to appear. And to be honest, it was really fucking tedious, because we were going around fighting these things, and they have, like, long... most of them are, you fight in groups of 3, and they're doing these long, repetitive combos. They've only got 2 attacks, and there's loads of them, and, like, it wasn't much fun, to be honest. We were looking around, and it's another Crimson Forest has got like there's a few platforming elements in it, but it's also definitely a Death by Vaseline fog area. It's like the visuals are not great, and we were talking about it like the Clair Obscur is using a lot of, as well as its Vaseline fog, it has a very like sort of crowded screen with a lot of, rather than sort of like complementary colours or like opposing colours, it just uses a lot of adjacent colours, and it just makes it quite visually, they might say dreamlike. I guess that's one way of thinking it, but like it's also kind of messy visually. So we weren't having a great time in the Crimson Forest, and we've been milling about in it for quite some time. The one advantage of being there was that like these enemies were on level, so we've gained a couple of levels doing it, which is nice at least. I think we're around about level 57 for the Mile, Lune, and Verso. So we did that, and then we found another one of those sword statues, and I get the impression that we've probably walked past a third, and then the area went dark, and instead of 3 of these sword things, we were getting 2 sword things and an Obscur, if you remember that from the end of Disc 2, those enemies. So that was still not particularly challenging, because we've had, like in Crimson Forest, you fight in that many of these fucking sword things that like, and the attacks are just so repetitive that you get used to the timings. It's really hard to not get used to the timings. In fact, you actually get used to the timings, and then it goes full circle. You get bored of them again. Episode 20, and like I say, if you're curious, like you can hear the audio in the second half. That audio that I've put down in the description. It's not like I'm not necessarily having a good time. We talk a little bit about like whether or not I might have missed a sword statue early that would have meant we'd have spent less time fighting just that one enemy. And there's a little question there about like game design, about like, well, should you move at the speed of the slowest player? No, I don't think you should. Not with game design. With a lot of things in this life, but not with game design. But if you design a dungeon with the attitude that no player is going to miss anything, then that can lead to problems. All it really needed to do with these enemies was just let them have an extra attack, or just make one of their, not even both of their attacks, but like one of their attacks, the fire sword thing, the particularly long one, just make it like short, like less long, but do more damage, and then at least the fights would be faster. But as it is, it runs into being a bit boring. And I think that whoever designed Crimson Forest was possibly a bit more focused on the design from a puzzle point of view or a platforming point of view than they were from a player's relationship with the enemy's point of view. Ultimately, this runs on for about, I forget how long the video is now. Can I see if I... it looks like we get to the 1 hour 45 minute mark after a standard half hour at the end of chatting and breaking it down. We're still in Crimson Forest, so that's where we'll pick up next time. But we have, because we've got the two sword statues, it's now dark in there, so you won't get the crimson effect, you'll get the dark effect. And yeah, I'm not having a great deal of fun with that area, to be honest. But it has brought us up some levels, so there's something there. We didn't cover, as part of this, just for the avoidance of doubt, any of the story things that were brought in from camp, like finding Lune's parents, or reviving Monaco's son, or speaking with Alicia. So that's all still to come. You haven't missed anything there. But that basically is it. So there was the summary of what I have caused you to miss. If you want to hear the audio, as I say, it's down in the description. But without the visuals, it makes for a very, 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 very poor radio play. So once again, excuse me, apologies for that, and I'll try and put some checks in so it doesn't happen again in the future. But yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.